Hi everyone, Sydney here, and today I wanted to talk to everybody about my personal technology supported learning environment, and that is actually my fourth grade classroom this year. The paper I felt that we had to read this week really outlined a lot of what my grade level and myself are doing this year in our classroom. A lot of the criteria really align with what we are doing, so I figured it would be a great time to kind of discuss what I do on a daily basis with my students. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about the right side of my mind map just because I feel like a lot of it is pretty straightforward. Assessment wise, with students, we really provide them with rubrics and also multiple means of assessment. So, kind of like what we talked about in weeks past, visual learners, should be able to show what they know in much different ways than a kinesthetic learner. So, we always provide them with different options and different projects where they can work with one another. The whole point of our participants, we really want our students within our classrooms and our district to really be doing the heavy lifting. So that just means that we're not just there spit feeding them information. They're actually working hard to actually learn something. And as far as the left side of my mind map, I think that the backwards design that we've talked about before, and that is also what was mentioned in the paper, and as well as STEM projects and project-based learning, those are three components that I'm constantly using in my classroom that I can supplement with tech and tools. I can infiltrate cross-cultural experiences, and I can really generate that class community. And it's super, super important to especially have that class community this year. Towards the class community, in my own classroom, we do a ton of collaborative projects with one another. That way, whether we're virtual, hybrid, or in person, students are using things like Zoom or they're sitting at certain tables and can actually, engage in group work and communicate with one another. Collaboration, creativity, communication, are, and critical thinking are four of those 21st century skills that, are really, really, really important for them to be able to engage in and solve problems using. We also, in my room, do a lot of peer feedback or student feedback, and we particularly done a lot of that with our constructed responses. As we prepared for the state test, students will complete a constructive response and will actually work in teams to grade each student's response. And it's really, really powerful because, students are getting feedback not only from one another, but they're getting that constructive criticism. We talk about stars and steps, giving students really things that they've done great and then things that they need to improve on. And I think that is really reflective on, their growth over the course of the year. We've also each week do a pit and a peak where we kind of just talk about, things that have gone well this week and things that maybe haven't gone as well. And we do that both in person and we can do that virtually. If you look towards the top of my mind map, I've used some tools throughout the year and I've listed them because I figured that they were helpful. It is really, really important to take into consideration your students' comfort level, and I know that that was mentioned in the text from this week. I, was lucky enough to have a lot of students that understood, how to work all of these tech tools from this year. They were very comfortable with Zoom. They were really comfortable with Nearpod or Edpuzzle or especially Flipgrid because I use Flipgrid so often. But I will say that, it is something that they do need to learn and they need to understand. So and coming from teaching first grade last year to fourth grade this year, I have made a fair share of tutorial videos, but they have been very helpful for the students. And like I kind of mentioned before, the STEM projects, the backwards design, and the PBL, we use constantly in my room, and I really think that that facilitates that class community. They're, infiltrating that technology. They're learning from one another. I can pull in outside sources. And I'm not talking textbooks, I'm talking, actual people that can zoom in, outsiders, people of our community, and that's where we can kind of get that cross-cultural flow coming in. So I know that this was fairly broad, but I did want, to highlight some of those things, and I know that there's always room for growth, but that is kind of my tech-supported learning environment in a nutshell.